This video is very pertinent for even in the news today. We always call it the bad news because certainly there's nothing good on the news of the legal news. It's always bad news. The only good news is the gospel message of Christ, which brought not only just hope, but is bringing in a kingdom that will wipe out all these evil kingdoms that are out there right now. And so that is good news to know that there is hope ahead, and that we are not without hope, as the legal system would try to govern you to think. So we deal with legal resident. Most people don't know much about the term resident, where it comes from, but it's Latin, and it comes from res, which is thing, and then ident, which is identified. So it's thing identified. So that's why they want to know if you are a legal resident or not, so that they can basically track and bill and fee anything attached to that. So this is kind of like a legal term that's used in the civil world. And so when we know that the peoples of the earth, the inhabitants of the earth, which would have been the original peoples, they needed to basically tag them. And so they had to put them eventually in residential schools. And so now you can understand, you're not going to feel very good about the term resident after this, but they put them in residential schools because they had tagged them. In fact, when you look up you can just Google up Project Surname, which occurred in Canada, and in some of the historical record of getting natives who did not have alternative names, legal names, they had to get them to pick these names, and many times they just had them go up to a blackboard at these residential schools, and they had to pick a surname, a legal surname, and that's how it was done. They didn't care which one they picked, as long as they picked one that they were going to go by. So that made them now in legal status with this legal civil system that had to tag all the debtors. And so the originals have even been now duped into using the term aboriginal, and ab, just as it would be a prefix in front of the term norm, or the word normal. When you take ab and you put it in front of normal, you know abnormal means not normal. So ab in front of original means not original. But they got them to take this on so that they would actually endorse the very thing that is opposite to what they were. And so not only do they make them now not originals, because they were originals, and that's why the Christian name is your original name when you look it up, even in Noah Webster's 1828. It's your original name before they add the alternative or the alternative name. And so basically, Jesus, coming from the tribe of Judah, was also of a tribal origin, and therefore that's where the kings came through, and that's where that sovereignty came through. And so in the International Law of Nations, basically no tribes were ever part of that. So when Jesus said, "My kingdom is not of this world," to Pontius Pilate, it truly made sense, because they were never, none of the tribes, or even the origin of the 12 tribes of Israel with its kingly bloodline, were ever considered to be under world powers. They were a nation under God, not a world power. So they were never part of the world. So very truthful, Jesus' statement to Pontius. And as we can see, unfortunately, without understanding these words, we don't know what's going on. But now when you look at the news and you hear about the residential schools, you now have more of a clear picture why they put them in these residential schools and got them to pick these legal surnames so that they could be what? A thing identified. And that's what it's all about. It's to get something of truth mixed in. So they need original with an unoriginal name, with an alternative name, an alternative name, and that's how they make the merger. And so they did it with not only these original peoples that were basically on the earth, certainly not engaged in commerce or any of the things that we see today. And so in order to get them into the system, they had to tag them, and that's how they tagged them, with a thing being identified. So they had to get them with legal surnames. So hopefully this video is kind of giving you a little bit more of an updated understanding of what's going on even in the news.